Another live stream, Beyond the Fringe. Today, I've got a good friend of mine, Woof, who is a producer, scriptwriter, and has a useful legacy in fundwriting. Fi supported me through my Arts Council England DYCP, Developing Your Creative Practice application, and assisted me, I am pleased to say, in delivering that DYCP and supporting me along the way when I was successful in getting the award. Fi was a major anchor point for me during the wander years and self-reflection that became to me during the pandemic. She's based in Folkestone in East Kent and is a local theatre and live arts champion, making drama and telling stories with people and places that are local to the region. As Woof Bark Donkey, Theatre and Events, Fi co-producing Devoted and Disgruntled East Kent, which we're going to talk about towards the end, asking the question, who needs theatre? So I'd like to welcome to Beyond the Fringe, my very good friend, Fi Woof. Hi,
hello.
Fi.
Thanks for inviting me in. Never been on the telly box before. So,
I love doing these introductions because, as you said before, when I told you what the intro was going to be, you were going, oh, well, can we just pedal back on that? And maybe not like that. And it's just like, no, this is how awesome you are. You can now kind of give us a bit of context to that. So, Fi, tell us a bit about your context in relation to that.
Well, in relation to that, it's been really, really interesting and quite a brilliant opportunity to work with you over the last year and a half now, isn't it? It's about that.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit more than that.
It's been quite good because you have inspired me to do something similar and pick up where I left off 25 years ago. And I also stage managing, but I stopped because there wasn't any money in it, and I decided to go and get a proper job.
Yeah, the before times. There's lots of before times, isn't there? You've got COVID, and then you've got before COVID times. What we were doing, we kind of spent that time kind of together, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We did, and we came together via mutual friends we worked with, and that was nice. We had a chat out of the blue. I asked you to help with some marketing.
Yeah.
And then we had a chat. So how can I help you in return, or what can we do together? Let's do this. I said, yeah, come on, you can do that. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get you a grant to do what you want to do. Yeah. So we did, didn't we?
It was, so when it was suggested to me that having a portfolio career gave a little bit more solidity to all of the eclectic stuff that I do. I mean, I love the word eclectic, but it's not always that useful when it comes to giving you a foundation. And it was from that people had said you should apply for your developing creative practice. And it would not have been possible without the support, additional money that came from the Arts Council to have you on board with both your fundraising expertise, but also, your support in understanding neurodiversity without being bogged down in the neurodiversity of dyslexia.
No, I've learned a lot along the way about that as well, and working with people with different perspectives and requirements, and it's always good to work with a big variety of people from different backgrounds and organizations. It makes you a better collaborator, I think, in the long run, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then we had our sort of before times when we were first brought together, but then the before times can also include technology or social media, how we moved through social media advances, which we've been through together through, just where our lives go. And then, of course, that prior to social media and all of that web, sort of those before times is sort of analog stage management. So you've kind of got a similar route, haven't we? So where did that take you? What made you not need to do or not be able to do what you wanted to do with stage management, and where you've come to today?
Oh, big question. I just miss that collaboration and creativity. I really, really love that rehearsal process, and I've been searching all the way through my work career as fundraiser. I've been searching for that connection again, and that how can I share or be part of a creative environment and do what I'm doing. I mean, I'm lucky I'm working 3 days a week now, so I've got time to do it. And working with you, supporting you to do your DCYP has made me realize that anything's possible. And if it's not there already, just do it anyway. Do it yourself and make it happen. And it's a big step. I didn't have much confidence because I've spent 25 years away from the theatre environment. So who was I to even dare to suggest I could do this?
It becomes a distant shadow, doesn't it? When you're in it and you're working on shows, the further you get away from it, although the skills don't necessarily change and technology can keep up, you kind of think everybody is backfilled. Everyone is backfilled, and the younger generation have come up and they're doing the things that you did when you were their age, and it's like, where do I go now?
And it's also not being able to not having a job where I'm supporting people to do stuff that they want to do. And I have had roles as fundraiser or strategic worker in small charities where I've supported people to do things, and that's been really rewarding. And I think that's why I've been forever trying to get out of fundraising, but I'm good at it. And I do like it.
And it's a great skill to have. It is a very great skill to have. But I think it is, because it's one of those things that everybody wants, it's very easy to be sucked down that avenue where you become that person and then you're being drained, whereas actually you want to be producing. And I think that direction that you've moved towards. So as I say, because we've had, it's funny how we kind of get defined by our domain names that we pick. And for Gmail, it's like you've been Woof Resources, Woof Rights, and now you're Woof Bark Donkey. So how did Woof Bark Donkey come along, and how is that your current producing persona?
Well, we were talking about set up a theatre company, what would you call it, type of thing. I said, I don't know. I said, I think people know my name. My name's very memorable, and you don't forget it. I've had people get in touch from way back and know exactly who I am, and that's been nice. And I hated it so much for 20 odd years, school, university. I hated my name, but it's actually quite good. So I used to live on a narrowboat in London, in Hackney, and there's this boat went past. Name was Woof Bark Donkey. It used to make me laugh every time I saw it. I thought it was out of Shakespeare, Midsummer Night's Dream, but I've looked and looked, and I don't think it's there. Also, Charlie Chuck, Yorkshire comic. It's one of his catchphrases. And I thought, ooh, how would this go down? So I wrote to Charlie Chuck and said, hey, naming thing, get the similarity. Could I use that, your catchphrase, as my theatre company name? And I got his blessing, which was very sweet. Yeah, let us know how we get on. So I've yet to update him whether this is what we're doing. Thank you, Charlie Chuck / David King. Very grateful. So here we are. Woof Bark Donkey started in November 2022 as an idea, as a concept to bring people together in Folkestone to produce live theatre, performance arts, because there isn't any out there at the moment. And it's not visible. Theatre's not visible here. And I've been looking for it and wanting to see stuff, even in the square, even in the amphitheatre down in the coastal park that we've got, we've got Tower Theatre, which is a wonderful small venue, proper theatre, light proscenium arch space just outside the main area of town. And they do fantastic community productions and have a jazz club as well. I've actually yet to go, I'm ashamed to say, connect with them, but I'm working on connecting with people to try and find out what's out there and what we can achieve as a collaborative group of people wanting to do the same kind of stuff, because there are people who want to do stuff. There's loads of actors here, directors, writers. We have some very well-known writers and creative people, actors, even writers, actors, performers, producers. There's loads of people here. I'm not going to name names.
It's the industry, isn't it? I think separating the industry from your audience, because if everybody's industry, no one wants to go and see everybody else's work all the time. It's not usually something that You
No.
can always go and see someone else's work. And then it's like artists making work. Artists don't sell their work to other artists. You need to have
That's right.
an audience. So having this conversation today that I really wanted to connect in with is that I'm currently trying to understand the East Midlands. So I'm based in the East Midlands, and the main river or artery that runs through as happens to be the M1, which is not very glamorous, and we live in the shadow of Birmingham. And some of the work that I've started to understand where equity is in the south, there is Kent equity branch, and you're doing some work that is very much been defined as East Kent. So as East Kent and East Midlands, I was interested to see if there's sort of any commonality, and especially with the way you're connecting. So what's your region like? What is East Kent? What is Kent, and how does it sort of plug into what you're trying to establish?
Yeah, East Kent is we've got Romney and Dungeness. We've got Ashford, just north of Folkestone. Canterbury, kind of. I don't know if Canterbury's central. It's more central Kent than East Kent. So we're looking at Ashford, Folkestone, Hythe, Dungeness, Romney Marsh areas.
You're kind of living in the back of London, aren't you? You're kind of the beautiful seascape in the back of, if you're looking at the UK, you put your hand over London, and East Kent is down with my camera, sort of behind
down bottom left corner, looking at the picture.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff. A lot of I don't think we even have a voluntary sector umbrella group here.
Right.
We have a volunteer centre. As a fundraiser, it's also been hard to find out where the community organisations are and what's there. We have the East Kent Community Foundation, but that's Kent. That's for the whole of Kent. That's based up, I think it's Maidstone somewhere. So there's a lot of focus on Maidstone and Thanet areas.
How did you start to look at the region that you were living in for what would be interesting for you? Because I know we had some conversation. We're going, I'm not quite sure what's with me. And we were looking at mapping venues and did sort of a little spreadsheet where we were going to see what venues were in our area. So we both started at quite a similar place.
It was, I put a shout out to people I already knew who are already involved in the arts, the visual arts, or wanting to do the cabaret and the variety and the performance, the fringe stuff. And they were very willing to help. Everyone's been fabulous and willing to help. And I contacted a few people in the Quarterhouse, Folkestone Quarterhouse, the Creative Foundation, they used to be known as, or it's all very confusing. Things change quite a lot here. But the Quarterhouse is our main live, council, government-funded live theatre venue. It's actually not a theatre venue. It's a performing venue. They do films, book festivals, live music. Theatre's written in their constitution once. There's only one mention of theatre.
It's creative arts, isn't it? I think it's where we've got live performance, which covers art, and we've now got sort of the sort of immersive, anything that is on its feet with a group of people that takes place in a room where people kind of lose themselves for half an hour, can have the immersive experience stamp placed on it.
It's not theatre. We have Screen South, who are based here as well. They're an amazing organisation. They cover London as well, I believe.
Yeah, so the London, the theatre sector and live performance, where you've got the fringes of one side goes to sort of those pubs and clubs and variety comedy, and then you've got theatre live, and then you bleed out into film, TV, screen. So you've got a film presence down there. That's interesting.
Yeah, we have film presence and a big music scene. We have what's known as Folkestone as a music town. We're the first dedicated music town. And we had our Music in May, which was an amazing events on every day, all the way throughout May, across the whole town, live music performances and workshops, and all kinds. And that generated huge interest. It was very well supported. We didn't have any Arts Council funding for it. We just made do with what we've got, and venues and people chipped in and made it all happen. And it's a brilliant community. Folkestone Music Town's a really good entity that I want to emulate with the theatre. It's a good model for what we want to do here and in East Kent with it. And there's also Thanet. Thanet have a brilliant theatre and performing arts network that pretty well established, and that I've only just recently linked into. So that's quite exciting. So there's potential. There's a lot of excitement around it. People want to get involved and support. What are we doing to create theatre in Folkestone? The thing is, there's nowhere to do it. That's our biggest challenge in this town. Where on earth do we do it? We can't, we want to bootstrap this. We want to properly 1980s fringe pub theatre stuff. That's where I want to be with this. Start that way and just do it in the town, outdoors, in people's driveways, in pubs and restaurants. I want to just generate this culture of performance of people's words and ideas. And plays and monologues.
What projects have emerged for you to collaborate on? I think you've got one that's happening quite soon. How did that come about?
Through the network, I've connected with various people, one of whom's playwright. It was really nice to be able to give people a bit of encouragement and support to do it anyway. And one play since gone on, Fleecehold by Michelle Sheldon, is fantastic. She's supporting a really important cause to raise awareness about leaseholds of ex-council buildings, namely ex-government-owned residencies, where you don't actually own anything, own your building, and you never get out of the lease. You will never be able to turn it into a freehold. There are various laws which mean actually you're screwed. You can't extend your lease. She's written a whole play about the origins of all of this and why it's happening, and supporting the campaign to change the law. And they're getting very close to doing that. I think even Michael Gove was in support of changing this law, but something happened and it all went on the back bench again because the leadership changed. So anyway, the play then was performed here in Folkestone, and then went to the Camden Fringe on a Camden Fringe grant. And I don't know what's next, but good luck, Michelle, and carry on.
Yeah, I'd say arts, theatre as a campaigning platform and a way to share stories. I mean, you said making drama and telling stories. I love that on your site, and that it the live performance is a genre, but the storytelling and the narrative that is core to theatrical delivery is kind of really, sort of really key.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by the forum theatre that we met on, with Francis and Graham of Utopia Arts.
So Utopia Arts looking
in London. Yes,
theatre as a mechanism for voice.
Change, yes, give people a voice. Yeah, and elements of that I want to bring into community work here. Yeah, we want to just involve people. We've got loads of people doing things, but we're not all connected up because we're all so busy doing second job and things like that.
Yeah, how does the social arts connect with sort of community arts? Because I say you've got the arts sector, sort of pubs and clubs and restaurants and bars where you go out and there's clubs, and it's part of the economy, being entertained whilst you're out spending money. And then there's the part of the arts which is trying to help and support, understand and inform more desperate communities.
Yeah, we have Living Words, an organisation who's doing a lot of that. I don't think they're theatre per se. They do theatre and books, word, poetry, and other organisations working with schools and young people.
Yeah, sort of
Oh,
library.
our library's just closed. We don't have a library. Council don't want a
So
library here.
yeah,
So
so those
we're screwed. So that venue, that whole
yeah,
that community venue that went with the
yeah.
library as well.
We were saying in
It's
our pre-chat, you know, one awful. We're losing our Wilco. You're losing your Wilcos. What's
yeah,
the local high streety sort of stuff like where you are? What's the local economy like?
it's not looking good. It's looking quite empty. The retail
Mm.
economy is looking a bit dire. On the other hand, we have the music, the food, all doing very well, thank you, on the Harbour Arm
Yeah,
and in parts of town where people have had a store and then their customer base has grown and they've had enough capital to set up in town, which is nice to see that progression. But unfortunately, COVID has knocked a few people out of business who've done that. So it's just been really sad to see these great businesses start up, move up into new venues in town, and have to close because they can't financially sustain it because
yeah.
COVID has had a really negative knock-on effect. It is independent, very independent here, which is great. We've got the usual suspects, but they're tucked away. They're not down the main high streets.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it go the way, Hastings, Old Town, and Deal, with a mix of both. But we don't have much business support to do that. A lot of those government grants are now gone.
Yeah, it's what comes next,
Yeah,
doesn't it? I think
what comes next?
getting
It's
together
not
and having
looking
those
good.
conversations. So I'm
It'd be
going to be coming down to visit for an open space devoted and disgruntled, which is going to be the first time I've been to a D&D
Oh,
since
really? Wow.
before COVID. I mean, I've been to them on the online ones,
Yeah.
and the one that
Yeah.
was in Canterbury, I was really tempted to come down because of connecting with you. I think you were doing something at the time, so you couldn't go.
Yeah, I couldn't
And
do
that
it. I think it was
barrier of
work.
London coming down from the north, that
Yes.
barrier of London is like, do I drive and go all the way around the outside of London, or you have to go in London to come out of London? So do I stay in London? It's only an hour, isn't it, Stratford East to you?
Yes, on the train.
But then I don't want to have to come back in the evening, which is why I've decided that I'm probably going to make a little bit of a seaside retreat about it. But
Great.
it's a satellite devoted and disgruntled with Improbable, so it's the real
Yes,
deal.
yes,
East
yes,
Kent,
they're
and you're going to
supporting
be
us
asking the
to help
question,
on it.
who needs theatre? So just open
Yeah.
space and how this came about and what that's going to look like.
Well, Oliver Senton, who's wonderful guy, fantastic actor and dramaturg himself. He is here. In fact, some of his family, his wife, Lucy Todd, is also a performer and singer. And they're known for their improvisation. They've done some big London improvisation shows with the audience to create a whole new play, whole new musical out of a improv, which has been quite phenomenal. So anyway, Oliver's part of the theatre network that I set up. He came along and connected, talk about what we want to do. So I'm just trying to support people to do the stuff they want to do and get things off
And
the
that's the
ground.
thing of producing, isn't it? It is kind of corralling and bringing people together, but strangely being quite low ego profile, which is quite complicated because it means you don't always have a lot of confidence.
It suits me because I don't really want to be in the foreground. I'm quite happy to be in the background. No, so Oliver said, "Oh, I want to do this." I said, "Great." He went to the Canterbury one. I'm connected with them there. So right, I want to do one for East Kent because there's nothing. We're trying to find people theatre and trying to find support for it. Maybe we should do one of these in Folkestone. I said, great. So where are you going to start? What are you going to do? When do you want to do it? And we just had those kind of conversations. And I said, well, let's talk about what you need, put a budget together and see what it looks like. And then we can talk about where, I don't know, using the fundraising hat, where would you want to go for money? We had a look at that. Don't put your own money into it. Always try and gather it from outside. I'm supporting the marketing bit well, I'm a producer, aren't I? So I've got to help somewhere, as well as just the stages we go through to make a show happen or make an event happen. So I think basically I supported Oliver as a sounding board and
it's keeping the narrative
we
of
go this
project
way
though,
and
isn't it? I mean,
do this.
sometimes you're on the, if a project is really self-contained and there's quite a lot of motivation, it can sometimes feel as a producer that you're not really involved, but you're kind of
I'm not really doing anything.
Yeah, and that sounding board is giving them the reassurance from an outside perspective that the thing is maintaining its structural integrity.
That's it. It's just helping. I'm just really helping people make things happen. I've always wanted to do that. And I think it's I find it easy because it's quite nice to be able to share all the information and knowledge that I've built up through managing projects and fundraising and doing the stage management in my 20s. All the stage management work I did in my 20s has led me to doing this because I've used all of those skills.
Yeah, it's a great foundation. Yeah.
To, you're the center point for information and you have to bring it in and disseminate it out and bring people with you and take them to the next place and make sure it all works, make sure all those components work. And I've done that all through my working career and whatever jobs I've had. So, and it brings me full circle back to this.
Yeah.
I thought if I don't do it now, I never will.
So so it's a co-collaboration with Improbable, who are the heart of the open space movement as far as in terms of theatre. Just give us a little bit of insight into why open space, what is open space, and if people were going to come along from East Kent, what can they expect, what's going to happen, and how is the question who needs theatre going to be addressed?
Yeah, it's going to be quite informal, fun, friendly. Everyone's opinions and ideas are valid. It's a respectful space. It's everyone will be made to feel comfortable. We work in small groups. We're not going to be sitting in front of someone lecturing.
Are you doing the whole calling the circle and everybody can have questions that go up onto a time grid? Open space
we'll
tends to have its rule of 2 feet, always very useful if you find yourself in a conversation and you wish you were not in that conversation. It is perfectly acceptable to just move along on. The rule of 2 feet and the different types. So are Improbable hosting for you, or are you doing it on behalf of them?
I think one representative will be co-hosting. I think Oliver has a couple of facilitators. I don't know if they're all from Improbable, but yes, they're all booked, and he'll be hosting as the main host.
I love open space as a way of, especially these questions where who needs theatre, especially for independent and fringe.
It's a big question.
It's a big question, and it always brings up different questions about access, necessity, funding, confidence, economics, how people come along with projects that they're not quite sure how they're going to create, and they go away with a little team or at least some insight. I mean, I'm looking forward to coming down, and if I was going to ask a question, it would be about what can the East Midlands learn from East Kent, and what could we share from the East Midlands that might be useful to East Kent?
Vice versa, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that is there's something that I'm very keen to to learn from your going out and just being just going out and finding it. I think you've got a little bit more extroversion in your yourself than I think I have. I think I can learn from that. I think there's some fellow introversion between us, but I think also you've got kind of that social.
I think we've got enough to go round, haven't we?
Outgoing a little bit more, yes. For the social.
Yeah, I'm nosy. I like people. I'm nosy. I want to know what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah.
Whether I want to be involved or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious by nature in that sense.
It feels quite distant from here, I think, because I'm not in the centre of Nottingham or Derby. It's a little bit further, and it's very easy for me to be on the outside. So I'm definitely going to do some. I would say I was quite nosy, so I'm going to be a little bit more ashamedly nosy and turn up to things.
Put yourself out there. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Can I also add that we're using the same philosophy that has been used for all the other D&Ds, is a pay what you can. So don't, if people do need to, do you really want to come but can't afford it, let us know. Drop us a line. There's a link on the Quarterhouse, Focus on Quarterhouse website.
And all the links for D&D on the 21st, are you?
This is the 14th of October.
I even told you that I was coming on. So this is on the 14th of October. Yes. 14th of October. Anything that I've just said, not true. 14th of October. All of the links are going to be in the show notes. And I know that we're going to continue probably talking for another 15, 20 minutes. But for you on the live stream, thank you so much for watching to the end of this live stream. The Beyond the Fringe is a series of 6 episodes at the moment that has brought me out of the Edinburgh Fringe to ask that question: what happens beyond the Fringe? It can be a really dead time for people who have done that, but there's lots of other fringes. It's not the only one up in Edinburgh. So I think this was episode 4. So there'll probably be a couple more. Do like and subscribe, as you always have to say with these things, because it does make a difference in terms of the algorithm. It's what I'm doing this thing for, really, is people say, who's your audience? I don't really know. You're watching this, so you are the audience. But it's important to me as a media maker and a creator and a producer to be able to have a control, or at least something embedded in the algorithm that is in the internet. Because if you do a show and you do some stuff and all of a sudden you want to make it known about, it's quite useful to already have your foot in an algorithm that knows what you're doing. So thank you so much for watching. And Fi, thank you so much for being my guest. And,
thank you.
I will bring this to a close.